floor to His Excellency Mr. Volodymyr Zelensky, the President of Ukraine. You have the floor, sir.
Дуже дякую. Шановна пані голово, шановний пане секретар, шановні члени Радбезу та інші учасники цього засідання. Дякую. Мене сьогодні почують і всі представники держав-членів ООН. Вчора я повернувся з нашого міста Буча, днями звільненого від військ Російської Федерації. Складно знайти воєнний злочин, який окупанти не вчинили би там. Російські військові розшукували і цілеспрямовано вбивали кожного, хто служив нашій державі. Вони розстрілювали жінок з дверима будинків, коли підходили і просто кликали того, хто є живий. Вони вбивали цілі родини, дорослих вбивали і дітей, і намагались спалити їх тіла. Я звертаюсь до вас від імені народу, який щоденно вшановує пам'ять загиблих. Щоденно, зранку. Пам'ять загиблих мирних людей, яких вбивали пострілом у потилицю або в око після катувань, яких розстрілювали просто на вулицях, яких кидали в колодці, щоб вони там загинули у стражданнях, яких вбивали в квартирах, в будинках, підриваючи гранатами, давили танками, просто давили танками в цивільних автівках посеред дороги заради задоволення, яким відрубали кінцівки і прирізали горло, яких гвалтували і вбивали на очах своїх же дітей. Їм виривали язик лише тому, що не чули від них того, що хотіли чути. Чим це відрізняється від того, що робили терористи Даїш на захопленій ними території? Хіба що тим, що це робить постійний член Ради безпеки Організації Об'єднаних Націй. Руйнує внутрішню єдність держав, руйнує державні кордони, заперечує право більш ніж десятка народів на 2 континентах на самовизначення і самостійне державне життя. Проводить послідовну політику знищення етнічної та релігійної різноманітності, розпалює війни і свідомо веде їх так, щоб вбити якнайбільшу кількість звичайних мирних людей, щоб зруйнувати якнайбільше звичайні мирні міста, щоб залишити в країні, куди заводить свої війська, тільки руїни і масові поховання. Все це ви бачите. Підтримує на державному рівні ненависть і намагається експортувати її в інші держави за допомогою своєї системи пропаганди і політичної корупції. Провокує глобальну продовольчу кризу, яка може призвести до голоду в державах Африки, державах Азії, і точно закінчиться масштабним політичним хаосом в країнах, де стабільність продовольчих цін – базовий фактор внутрішньої безпеки. Тож, де ця безпека, яку має гарантувати Рада безпеки? Її немає, хоча і є Рада безпеки, як ні в чому не бувало. Тож де той мир, заради гарантування якого створювалася Організація Об'єднаних Націй? Це очевидно, що ключова інституція світу, яка повинна забезпечувати примус будь-яких агресорів до миру, просто не може ефективно працювати. Зараз світ побачив, що російські військові зробили в Бучі, поки утримували наше місто в окупації, але світу ще тільки належить побачити, що вони зробили в інших окупованих містах, в інших окупованих районах нашої країни. Географія може бути різною, але жорстокість однакова, злочини однакові, і відповідальність має бути неминучою. Пані та панове, я хочу нагадати вам статтю 1 глави 1 статуту ООН. В чому мета нашої організації? В тому, щоб підтримувати мир і примушувати до миру. А зараз статут ООН порушується буквально з 1 статті. А якщо так, то який сенс в усіх інших статтях? На сьогодні саме внаслідок дій Росії на території моєї держави, на території України скоюються найстрашніші воєнні злочини за увесь час після завершення Другої світової війни. Російські війська свідомо знищують в попіл українські міста артилерійськими, авіаційними ударами, свідомо блокують міста, створюючи в них масовий голод, свідомо розстрілюють колони цивільних на дорогах, які намагаються просто врятуватися з територій військових дій, свідомо відривають навіть укриття, в яких ховаються мирні люди від авіаційних ударів, свідомо створюють на тимчасово окупованих територіях такі умови, щоб там було вбито якнайбільше цивільних людей. Масові вбивства у нашому місті Буча – це лише один, на жаль, з багатьох.
I am addressing you on behalf of the people who honor the memory of the deceased every single day, in the memory of the civilians who died, who were shot and killed in the back of their head after being tortured. Some of them were shot on the streets, others were thrown into the wells, so they died there in suffering. They were killed in their apartments, houses, blowing up grenades. The civilians were crushed by tanks while sitting in their cars in the middle road, just for their pleasure. They cut off limbs, cut their throats, slashed their throats. Women were raped and killed in front of their children. Their tongues were pulled out only because the aggressor did not hear what they wanted to hear from them. So this is no different from other terrorists such as Daesh, who occupied some territories. And here it is done by a member of the United Nations Security Council, destroying internal unity, borders, countries, and taking the right of more than a dozen of countries who are self-determined and independent. They pursue a consistent policy of destroying ethnic and religious diversity, then inflame wars and deliberately lead them in such a way that to kill as many regular civilians as it is, to leave where they deploy their troops in and filled with mass graves. And they support hatred at the level of the state and seek to export it to other countries through their system of propaganda and political corruption. They provoke global food crisis that could lead to famine in Africa, Asia, and other countries, and will surely end in large-scale political chaos in many countries, destroying their domestic security. So where is the security that the Security Council needs to guarantee? It's not there, although there is a Security Council. So where is the peace? Where are those guarantees that the United Nations needs to guarantee? It is obvious that the key institution of the world, which must ensure coercion of any aggressor to peace, simply cannot work effectively. Now the world can see that what Russian military did in Bucha while keeping the city under, but the world has yet to see what they have done in other occupied cities and regions of our country. Geography might be different or various, but cruelty is the same, crimes are the same, and accountability must be inevitable. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you of Article 1, Chapter 1 of the UN Charter. What is the purpose of our organization? Its purpose is to maintain peace and make sure that peace is adhered to. And now the UN Charter is violated literally with the Article 1. And if so, what is the point of all other articles? Today, as a result of Russia's actions in our country, in Ukraine, the most terrible war crimes of times are we see since the end of World War II, and they are being committed. Russian troops are deliberately destroying Ukrainian cities to ashes with artillery and airstrike. They are deliberately blocking city, creating mass starvation. They deliberately shoot columns of civilians on the road trying to escape from the territory of hostilities. They even deliberately blow up shelters where civilians hide from airstrikes. They are deliberately creating conditions in the temporarily occupied territories so that as many civilians as possible are killed there. The massacre in the city of Bucha is only unfortunately, one of many examples of what the occupiers have been doing on our land for the past 41 days. And there are many more cities, similar places where the world has yet to learn the full truth. Mariupol, Kharkiv, Chernobyl, Tyrka, Borodyanka, and dozens other Ukrainian communities. Each of them is similar to Bucha. I know, and you know perfectly well what representatives of Russia will say in response to the accusations of these crimes. They have said that many times. The most significant was after the shooting down of the Malaysian Boeing over bus by Russian forces with Russian weapons, or during the war in Syria. They will blame everyone just to justify their own actions. They will say that there are various versions, different versions, and it is impossible to establish which one of those versions is true. They will even say that the bodies were of those kills were allegedly thrown away, and all videos are staged. It is 2022 now. We have conclusive evidence. So there are satellite images. We can conduct full and transparent investigation. That is what we are interested in. Maximum access for journalists, maximum cooperation with international institutions, involvement of the International Criminal Court, complete truth and full accountability. I'm sure that every member state of the UN should be interested in this, in order to punish once and for all those who consider themselves privileged and believe that they can get away with anything. So show all the potential war criminals in the world how they will be punished. If the biggest one is punished, then everyone is punished. Why did Ukraine come to Ukraine? I will tell you, because Russia's leadership feels like colonized ancient times. They need our wealth, our people. Russia has already deported hundreds of thousands of our citizens to their country. They abducted more than 2,000 children, just simply conducted those children and continue to do so. Wants to turn Ukraine into silent slaves. The Russian military are looting openly the cities and villages that they have captured. This is wide-scale looting. They are stealing everything, starting with food, ending with earrings that are pulled out and covered with blood. We are dealing with a state that is turning the veto into the UN Security, into the right to die. This undermines the whole architecture of global security. It allows them to go unpunished. So they are destroying everything that they can. So if this continues, the countries will rely only on the power of their own arms to ensure their security, and not on international law, not rely on international institutions. The United Nations can be simply closed. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to close the UN? Do you think that the time of international law is gone? If your answer is no, then you need to act immediately. The UN charter must be restored immediately. The UN system must be reformed immediately so the veto is not the right to die, that there is a fair representation in the Security Council of all regions of the world. The aggressor must be brought to peace immediately. Determination is needed. The massacre from Syria to Somalia, from Afghanistan to Yemen and Libya, that should have been stopped a long time ago, to tell you the truth. If tyranny had at least once received such a response to the war it had waged, it would have ceased to exist, and honest peace had been guaranteed after it, and the world would have changed for sure. And then perhaps there would not be war in my country against our people, against Ukrainian people, against our citizens. But the world watched and did not want to see it, either the occupation of Crimea or the war against Georgia or taking the entire Transnistria from Moldova, and how Russia was preparing the basis for other conflicts and wars near their borders. How to stop it? Right away, the Russian military and those who gave them orders must be brought to justice immediately for war crimes in Ukraine. Anyone who has given criminal orders and carried out them by killing our people will be brought before the tribunal, which should be similar to the Nuremberg tribunals. I would like to remind Russian diplomats that a man like von Ribbentrop has not escaped punishment for crimes in World War II. I would also like to remind you that Adolf Eichmann also did not go unpunished. Nobody of them escaped the punishment. But the main thing is today is it's time to transform the system, the United Nations. So therefore, I propose to convene a global conference, and we can do it here in peaceful Kyiv in order to determine how we are going to reform the world security system, how we will rely, how do we establish guarantee of recognition of borders and integrity of states and countries, how we will assert the rule of international law. It is now clear that the goals set in San Francisco in 1945 for the creation of a global security international organization have not been achieved, and it is impossible to achieve them without reforms. Therefore, we must do everything in our power to pass on to the next generation an effective UN with the ability to respond preventively to security challenges and thus guarantee peace, prevent aggression, and force aggressors to peace, have the determination and ability to punish if the principles of peace are violated. There can be no more exceptions or privileges. Everybody must be equal. All participants of international relations, regardless of economic strength, geographical area, and individual ambitions. The power of peace must become dominant, the power of justice and the security power, as humanity has always dreamed of it. Ukraine is ready to provide a platform for one of the main offices of the newly updated security system, as similar to the Geneva office that deals with human rights, and Nairobi office that deals with environmental protection. And in Kyiv, we can have U24 office that can specialize in preventive measures to maintain peace. I would like to remind you of our peaceful mission in Afghanistan, when we, Ukrainians, evacuated from that country over more than 1,000 people from at our own expense. It was a very difficult phase, and Ukraine came to their help. We took in people of different nationalities, ethnic groups, different faiths, Afghan citizens of the European countries, U.S., Canada. We did not look who needed help. Was it one of our own or somebody else? We helped all of them. We saved everyone. If every time there was a need, everyone in the world would be confident that help would come, the world would be definitely safer. Therefore, Ukraine has the moral right to propose a reform of the world security system. We have proven that we helped others not only happy time, but in dark times too. And now we need decisions from the Security Council for peace in Ukraine. If you do not know how to make this decision, you can do two things: either remove Russia as an aggressor and a source of war, so it cannot block decisions about its own aggression, its own war, and then do everything that we can do to establish peace. Or the other option is, please show how we can reform or change, dissolve yourself and work for peace. Or if there is no alternative and no option, then the next option would be dissolve yourself altogether. And I know that you can admit that if there is nothing that you can do besides conversation, we need peace. Ukraine needs peace, Europe needs peace, and the world needs peace. And finally, I would kindly ask you very much to watch this short video. Please give us 1 more minute of your time, the video that we want to show that one country can violate rights, and that's the result of being unpunished. If possible, please watch this video, because it is impossible to get everyone to come to our country and see it with your own eyes. Therefore, I would ask you to watch this video. Thank you very much.
The video. They have the video. I'm not sure. The video, is it just coming?
Uploaded to the technicians of the Security Council. So they have it in their possession.
We don't have the video. I propose that while we sort that out, I thank His Excellency Mr. Zelensky for his compelling and powerful remarks. We will come back to the video when we've sorted out the technical issues around it. And may I say, speaking in my national capacity, may I express appreciation to the President for his leadership in wartime and for the extraordinary fortitude and bravery of the Ukrainian people under this unprovoked and illegal invasion. I resume my function as the President of the Security Council, and while we sort out the technical video, I propose to give the floor to those council members who wish to make statements. And I now give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me also start by thanking UAE and Ambassador Nisabeh for her successful presidency during the month of March. Madam President, as you begin your Security Council presidency, I want to thank the United Kingdom for your leadership and for organizing this vital discussion on Ukraine today. I also want to thank the Secretary General for his remarks and the other briefers. And I'd like to extend a warm welcome to President Zelensky. I was so moved by the address he made recently to our Congress, and we are truly honored by his presence here under the circumstances that he and Ukraine face today. Madam President, last night I returned from a trip to Moldova and Romania. I saw with my own eyes the refugee crisis caused by Russia's unconscionable war. I spoke to refugees who indicated to me their desires to return to their home. And we've all seen the images on TV of the bombed out buildings. But what we have not seen is that behind those destroyed buildings are destroyed lives and destroyed families. I met with women and children who had fled Ukraine, who stuffed their lives into backpacks and left the only home they had ever known. And these were sobering conversations. One young woman I spoke to came with her 6-year-old brother, who had autism and is struggling with cancer. Their single mother helped them escape to save their lives. But Russia's war has interrupted the care her brother desperately needs. Another woman I spoke to fled with her 8-year-old from Odessa. The father, who they'd left behind, told them there was shelling right next to their apartment that very night. And they very well could have died had they not left. A third woman I met told me that she used to love to travel, but never expected her next trip would be to flee for her life. When I asked her where she was from, she started to say, and then she stopped with tears in her eyes and said, "I'm sorry. I don't know how to say it, whether I live in Kyiv or whether I used to live in Kyiv." She was realizing in the moment just how dramatically her life had changed because of the senseless war. These are 3 stories of more than 10 million people, 6 million internally displaced, 4 million who have left Ukraine altogether, 4 million people who have relied on the big-heartedness of countries like Moldova, Romania, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, and others across the region and the world to welcome and support all those leaving Ukraine in search of safety. Ukraine's neighbors are bearing the brunt of Europe's most significant refugee crisis since World War II. And I want these countries to know that they have a committed partner in the United States. And that is why the United States announced recently that we are prepared to provide more than $1 billion in new funding toward humanitarian assistance for those affected by Russia's war in Ukraine and its severe impact around the world. And it is why we are welcoming up to 100,000 Ukrainians and others fleeing Russia's aggression to the United States. We will continue to assist humanitarian efforts to help the people of Ukraine and all those fleeing Putin's violence. But as heart-wrenching as the stories are that I heard in Moldova and Romania, there are some stories we will never get to hear. Those of the people we saw in the images out of Bucha. We've all seen the gruesome photos. Lifeless bodies lying in the streets, apparently summarily executed, their hands tied behind their backs. As we work to independently confirm the events depicted in these images, I would remind this Council that based on the currently available information, the United States has assessed that members of Russia's forces have committed war crimes in Ukraine. And even before seeing the images from Bucha, President Zelensky, along with others in the region, were reporting that children were being abducted, and we heard him say that today.